Welcome to a busted play. An illegal use of hands to the face short.
So, sadly, with the season returning, we have ran into another bump in the road, just about as we do every season. I mean, it's without a doubt. It's a game where you hit people, so people are bound to get injured, and we should just really go around the league and talk about who's gotten hurt and how it affects their team so far. So, Jake, if you just want to start going down the list, we can have a little discussion about how this affects the league as a whole.
Yeah, first injury I got is Carl Lawson.
I think this one is probably the biggest one on the list. I was after going through with the Bengals last season and just checking out what Carl Lawson was able to do last year. I couldn't believe they let him go, even though they were able to get another solid defensive end to replace him and rush the passer in his place. His production was absolutely tremendous last season, and if there was a team that I felt like really needed a boost on the defensive side of the ball after what I saw from them last season, it felt like it was the New York Jets. It felt like they had maybe like one guy, Quinn Williams, really, at least in terms of last season, who felt like he could actually make much of a difference on that side of the ball. And Carl Lawson was not the guy that I wanted to see go down because, never want to see anybody go down, but I was really interested to see how he would play this season just because of how well he did last season and because of how much of an impact he probably would have had on that Jets defense.
Yeah, the Jets being last in their division, the AFC East, they're going to play some pretty crappy teams this year. And Carl Lawson, with his skill set and how good he is, definitely could have gotten them a win just by him alone being on that team and being on that pass rush could have gotten them a win or adds a win or subtracts a win depending on how you're looking at the roster and the team now with him not being there. So it's a huge loss for them. Yeah, and probably the biggest injury of the whole preseason so far.
Mm-hmm. Who you got next?
We got AJ Mccarron up next.
Yeah, he's he's a former Buffalo Bill. You know, you always love
Yeah,
to point
he
that
had a
out to
cup of
me.
coffee with the team.
Always love to point that out to me whenever we got a former Bills player. But yeah, sadly he's down and out for this season. But we actually had a little interesting Felipe Franks discussion before. Now, we will talk about the fact that Matt Ryan is one of the healthiest quarterbacks in the NFL, at least from our perspective. I can't remember him missing a game almost in his entire career. I don't remember like
There's one game where Matt Schaub started.
yeah, Matt Schaub like barely had to step in and he was there forever. But besides that, it just seems like he's been super healthy. So we always hope every player stays healthy. But geez, man, Falcons would be really interesting if they ever had to have Felipe Franks step into the role. But like I said last week when we talked about Felipe Franks, if he ever ends up on the field, there's one thing that I'll trust him to do, and that's at least be able to escape if there's ever any pressure in his face, because he was able to at least evade the pass rush pretty well.
Mm-hmm. All of Matt Ryan's career, they've had a backup quarterback for him that had a similar skill set to him. I mean, for the longest time, it was Matt Schaub. Like, after what he did with the Texans, just going there and riding pine behind Matt Ryan is ridiculous. But very similar skill set to Matt Ryan. AJ McCarron also had that similar skill set to Matt Ryan, and now you have Felipe Franks, who I think their game plan and their offensive scheme just goes out the window now with him. So I don't want Matt Ryan to get hurt, but it would be very interesting to see Felipe Franks run that offense and try to win a game for him.
Yeah, I feel like if he ever touched the field, I would hope. I don't know. I don't know Arthur Smith very well, but I would hope that Arthur Smith would be the type of coach that would realize, hey, let's do what the kid does well and not just do what our offense wants to do, because
Yeah.
that would not be a good idea if he ever had to step into the game.
Yeah.
Who's next in our roundup?
Rashad Bateman.
This is another one that hurts, I think. I think the Ravens passing game. Now this was a discussion we had before about how the Bills and Ravens kind of improved two spots on their teams that were weak before, but like the improvements that they made were just enough to still kind of balance it out, which made it feel like if the Bills and Ravens ever matched up again, they would probably be in about the same spot. Now, for all those places that other AFC teams have advanced, if Rashad Bateman can't get on the field for a little while and potentially has his growth stunted a little, even if he's able to get in by midseason and get into the postseason once it comes around, having a little bit of a stunted growth could hurt them because that's not where they want to be in terms of the playoffs. I have no doubt that this team will be in the playoffs once again this year, but really they need to be able to throw the ball once they get into the playoffs, and just having him have to miss time at all is not anything that you want to hear about for this team this upcoming season.
Yeah, picking up Rashad Bateman in the draft was huge for the Ravens, and I think that has been universally applauded. Just getting more receivers in the building for them. They also picked up Tylan Wallace too in the draft, but losing him is such a pain, and terrible for them. He's gonna be back by the end of the season, but yet, like you said, with his growth being stunted, you gotta hope that he could just go and be what he was in college and carry that in and hope that the injury doesn't nag him at all. It's a killer for them. It really sucks.
The nice thing is that they actually doubled down at the position, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
If they didn't grab Tylan Wallace, I could say that this would even be worse for them. This is only a slight downgrade because they still grabbed Tylan Wallace a little bit later in the draft. And honestly, I didn't think Tylan Wallace was that much worse of a player than Rashad Bateman. I thought he was I had
him right next to each other in my rankings.
Yeah, and that's the good part. But still, I'd rather have what I would say is 4 competent receivers in Baltimore than only 3. Just because they really haven't had any one guy be too consistent for them in recent years.
Next on the list is L.J. Fort.
And also for the Ravens, once again, that's not really one. Since considering this list isn't terribly long, it's not helpful to have this be for the same team. He's a guy playing linebacker for them. I got to be honest. It's sad to see him get hurt, but I don't think this kills them. I feel like their defense is really well coached, and they'll get a guy to step in there and play his role well enough. If on special teams, I feel like the same thing would occur. I just feel like it's something minor. It's noteworthy, but I don't feel like it's going to even swing this team a game or anything like that.
It might swing him a half a game. I know how much Harbaugh likes his athletic linebackers, and L.J. Fort fits that with Patrick Queen there too. Having to get another guy in, I don't know the linebacker depth that well. Don't shoot me for it, but he's a starter for him, and whenever you lose a starter, that's pretty terrible. So you got to hope that who they have next man up can fill that hole with little to no drop off.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that is what you always got to hope for.
And still staying in the AFC North, we got Joseph Osai.
Yeah, this was the guy. Osai's out of Texas, correct?
Mm-hmm.
He's the guy that I got to be honest. I've been picking on all off season, so it sucks because I've been picking on him. Now he's not even going to get an opportunity to prove me wrong, which always that's what we want to see. We're just trying to evaluate talent, right? See who we think is going to be good, who we think is going to be better, who we think is going to be worse around the league. And that's why we talk about a player either positively or negatively, because we're really trying to analyze the game. So, I mean, I was speaking poorly of him, but geez, this is not the way you want to see it to go. He would have been a nice piece for them to have on the defensive line, considering the fact that they have 2 decent defensive ends, but they don't really have much depth behind that. He would have been a guy that would have been nice to get in and out of there, move in and out a lot for them, and see what he could have done during the season for them. Now they're kind of just sitting with those top 2 guys, and after that I really don't know where they'll be looking for any sort of guys to spell them at all.
Yeah, he was my guy to watch for the Bengals going into preseason. I wanted, like you said, to be proven wrong. I wanted everything that I said negative about him to be wrong. And the first game that he played in, he played a little bit against the Patriots. Or no, he didn't even play against the Patriots.
The Bucs.
He looked all right. I got confused because they played the football team the next game, and the football team played the Patriots. But he looked okay. I didn't see much of him, but like you said, they have those 2 solid bookend edge rushers, and then no depth on after them. And with that, young team that's not really in a great spot in the Bengals, just with how both their lines are defensive and offensive. You want that young depth in there so you can at least like well, the season's a wash now, let's just get the young guys some time, and you can't even do that. So crappy situation for the Bengals.
Yeah. Next up.
Next up is Raymond Calais, running back, LA Rams.
This is really I can't tell you anything about Raymond Calais, but I mean it just further confirms the fact that the LA Rams running back room is really not being able to stay very healthy this offseason, which isn't good. And one of the guys who's dealt with the most injuries in the past, Jake Funk, is staying healthy through it all though. So Jake Funk stunk at an all-time high.
Funk, baby. But that needs to be our thing all season. Pump up the funk.
Yeah. So Daryl Henderson, he's still playing, but man, they're really not having much luck. Beside him and Jake Funk, those are the only two running backs on LA, and Daryl Henderson can't get every single carry now because this running back room is getting hurt. And Jake Funk, actually, surprisingly, when I watched him play for a few plays, he didn't look as broken down as I thought he would have. So I'm excited to watch Jake Funk this season. And also, I should just be excited for that running back room in general because I was waiting for the Daryl Henderson breakout year for like the past 2 years. It just never came. And now it feels like at least one of them has to break out. And either way, I should be excited for either of those guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Last player injury we got is Tommy Lee Lewis for the Saints.
And this is coming back to our discussion earlier in the offseason. A lot of our discussions, we can't stop touching on Taysom and Jameis, but one of our points there was that after the Michael Thomas injury was announced, it makes way more sense to go with Taysom because I was already at least in favor of going with Taysom. And then if you can't throw the ball as efficiently, you should probably try to run the ball a bit better, right? So that's why I was saying go with Taysom. But geez, this wide receiving core has kind of just completely been destroyed for the Saints. I mean, we don't have Emmanuel Sanders. We're not going to have Mike Thomas week 1. We're not going to have Jared Cook. Basically, it feels like the only significant guys we got returning that are going to be playing week 1 in the receiver department for these guys at any position are Alvin Kamara and Deontay Harris. I don't know how much they want to put on Deontay Harris's plate, but I don't know if they're going to be looking to potentially move the ball down the field a bit more with their passing game now that they don't have a weak-armed quarterback in Drew Brees there. They probably can push it down the field a little more, but if they don't have any weapons there, they're going to have to keep looking underneath and really getting Alvin Kamara the ball in the run game and the pass game early in the season without not spreading it out too much, really not getting too many guys involved because there's not a lot of guys I trust to touch the ball at this point with this team.
Yeah, I'm trying to think off the top of my head who they have for receivers now, just after Deontay Harris.
Lil Jordan Humphrey.
Lil Jordan Humphrey, Traquan Smith, and Chris Hogan. Like those, they signed Chris Hogan. It's not good. And Tommy Lee Lewis isn't really a top caliber wide receiver, but he isn't Chris Hogan, so that's a plus. It's looking rough for them in the receiver department, and I would not blame them at all if they just made a Ravens type offense where it's run 95% of the plays and throw on like 3rd and longs only, if that. It's their receiving room is ravaged, and I mean Michael Thomas is going to be back before the end of the season. Tommy Lee Lewis isn't. Michael Thomas is obviously the more important player there, but they just need some help in the receiver game. Like maybe a trade for one by the end of the preseason isn't a bad idea because they don't really have much of anything in that room.
Yeah. And we could say that they could go out and get that guy that wanted to get traded from New England and N'Keal Harry, but now he's down with injury as well, so that means that he's not even on the table.
Yeah, everyone's getting hurt. And then to round out our list, we got Mike Rabel, head coach for the Tennessee Titans. He got COVID protocoled, first head coach of the season to get COVID protocoled. The Titans had that notable breakout last year where they ended up getting all these games rescheduled, and the Bills and Chiefs didn't know if they were going to play that week or the next week, and the Bills ended up playing them Tuesday night. And hopefully that doesn't happen again, but it's not really good when the leader of men, Mike Rabel, is the first one to come down with it.
Yeah, that's not what you want to see. I don't even know what to say about this. I really, my first thought when I saw this is, geez, he really got lucky with the timing, because he will have like a full 2 weeks before the season starts. And actually, even though we only have preseason week 3 and then NFL week 1, it's actually a pretty good timetable for him to be able to return for the game week 1, which is very lucky for the Titans case.
Yeah, hopefully, I'm gonna be excited to see what that coaching staff does without him there on the field if he isn't out there on the field.
Preseason week 3, watch the Titans. All right.
It's gonna be exciting.
You all set?
Yeah, I think we can cut this here.